Hello everybody, Maven here, and this is going to be a fusion rifle video. So over the past year, fusions have undergone a lot of sandbox changes, and they're not what they used to be. So we're going to be testing all the archetypes, the 500 RPMs, the 660s, the 760s, and the 960 high impacts, testing them out for their range and consistency. Overall, at what amount of meters can you expect them to be reliable, and which one should you be using in the Crucible? We're going to test that out. And also for the heck of it, we're going to throw in Telesto into this video because it's its own different kind of entity, a fusion rifle. And then we're also going to be trying the Devil's Ruin. It says sidearm, but you and I both know it's just an infinite ammo fusion rifle, so I wanted to give that a try as well. And just a quick disclaimer for all the newer players out there who think Xur's main ingredient is the most amazing thing in the world, is what you've been told. There's actually better options, and I'll show you that in this video. Don't get me wrong, I love Xur's main ingredient. We'll still do some testing with it though. And I have been a fusion rifle main ever since Destiny 1. I have thousands of PvP fusion rifle kills, and there's a lot I've learned over this course of time. So hopefully there's something that I can teach you in this video. So let's get to it. And if you are new here and you enjoy Destiny 2, PvE and PvP, weapon testing and builds, then you've come to the right place because we do that a lot here. So consider liking and subscribing. And with that, let's get on to the video. Hope you enjoy. And really quick, before we get into the actual testing, there is something that I need to explain about fusion rifles, and I'll use this 5 out of 5 God roll Trinary system as an example. I mean, I would prefer a ranged masterwork, but whatever. So whether you're playing on controller or mouse and keyboard, stability is always going to be one of the #1 stats you should aim for on a fusion rifle, because regardless of your input, fusion rifles jump, and you want to keep that jump less harsh. That's why I got some stability perks here: tap the trigger, surplus, particle repeater, stability masterwork. Now, what is up with this extended barrel? Well, the other thing I need to explain is that the absolute most important stat you can try to fix on your fusion rifles is going to be recoil direction. Recoil direction is more important than stability, because you don't want your spread on your fusion shots to jump all over the place. You want them to stay as vertical as possible. Helps you track your target better, helps you pick up the kill a lot more consistently than having stability will. Range is also pretty important too, but above all else, if you can do anything to get your recoil direction to 100 or near it, you should. So that's why the best perks that you can have in slot for a fusion in the barrel options is going to be extended barrel, chambered compensator, and arrowhead brake. And you almost always want to put a counterbalance stock as your mod of choice to up that recoil direction even further. So starting off with 500 RPM rapid fire frame fusions, I personally feel that the likely suspect is going to be the best option. I don't think that null composure or Cartesian coordinate are going to be better, and I do have a God roll Riptide, but I still think that the likely suspect is better. So for the roll we got, yes, Adagio is not really the best perk that you should go for in the second slot, so I will be changing that, but for the sake of this testing and the neutral game of the weapon, this really shouldn't affect the video. And then we got arrowhead brake with counterbalance stock to pretty much max out that recoil direction, which is really important. And then instead of going stability on this, I went for range. I put a range masterwork with projection fuse, because to make up for that loss of stability, and also because of the fact that it's a close range weapon, you don't need as much stability, I have on enhanced firmly planted. So when we're crouched, when we go slide into the action, we're going to get massively increased stability. So it should still be pretty consistent while also having decent range. So for our testing today, I just went into a private match with my buddy. I'm taking some shots at him. I'm using Darcy to measure some meters to see where the thing's consistent at. And with the likely suspect, we start out at 15 meters, then go to 14. The thing's just not picking up those kills. The spread is too harsh. And upon testing this, I found that you need to hit all 8 shots of the burst in order to pick up the kill. I even hit one with 7, didn't get the kill. So these things really got nerfed into the ground. They used to be so dominant, and now they honestly kind of suck. In order to be consistent with this thing, I found that 12 meters is kind of the sweet spot. And note that this likely suspect is pretty much a range roll. It's got a ton of range, yet it's only hitting consistent numbers and consistent kills at 12 meters. If you're gonna go for a kill anywhere beyond that, I would be pairing this thing with a kinetic hand cannon that has really good handling or has quick draw, because you're going to need to swap to it really quickly to get that cleanup, or else you're going to get stomped on. So 12 meters is what I would say for likely sus. So next up, we're moving on to 660 RPM adaptive frame fusions, kicking it off with the Trinary system that I showed earlier in the video. So this is a stability roll, and I was starting off at the amount of meters that I was testing the likely suspect at, and it kind of just blew my mind. This thing felt really, really, really stable compared to the likely suspect, and was immediately picking up those kills where the likely suspect could not. So I moved back, and then I tried around like 16 to 17 meters for starters, and it felt like it was starting to get some damage fall off, and it was a little bit less consistent. Around 15 meters, it was able to get some kills, but still whiffed sometimes. But 15 meters, you can reliably pick up a kill, but for consistency's sake, I would say that the sweet spot for the Trinary system with the stability roll is going to be 14 meters. And next up, we're going to be trying out another 660 adaptive frame fusion. The Trinary system we just tried was a full-on stability roll, but this Burden of Guilt, the new Trials of Osiris fusion, is going to be a range roll. So we're going to compare and see which kind of 660 is better. Should he be going for stability or should he be going for range? So we have high impact reserves, which at the beginning of a Crucible game, when you only start with 2 rounds in the mag, high impact reserves is going to be instantly procced. It gives you some free damage. It's not that much, but it is free damage. And just for testing's sake, we're going to be using one quiet moment instead of alacrity, because that wouldn't be fair. And likely in most scenarios, you're going to have teammates, so alacrity won't be proc most of the time anyways. And now we have on Elemental Capacitor, which if you run that on a Void subclass, it's going to give you a massive bump of stability, which for having a range roll, having Elemental Capacitor is kind of cheating. And so that gives you some wiggle room to run range parts like Hammerforge Rifling and a range Masterwork. I even have the option of going Projection Fuse to have even more maxed out range. And then I even have Particle Repeater, which I'm going with that because I just want the little bit of extra consistency, the little bit of stability. So right away, I'm already seeing a big improvement in the range. It has a lot further of a damage fall off, and the stability is not too terrible. Obviously, the Trinary system has way better stability, and with the Burden of Guilt, you have to kind of physically control it more. Like you have to tilt down a little bit on your controller stick or on your mouse as the weapon is firing for it to have a tighter spread. That is if you have a full-on range roll like I do. But this thing, I don't remember, but I think it was able to pick up a kill from 18 meters with a lucky shot. It can sometimes get kills at 17 meters, but it's a little bit less consistent. 16 meters, I was consistently getting kills more often than not. But it did whiff every once in a while. So I would say the consistent area for Burden of Guilt would probably be around 15 meters is where I say it's totally, completely reliable. And on to the next archetype. This is a 780 charge time precision frame fusion rifles. This is what everyone believes to be the best archetype of fusion rifle, because this is what main ingredient is in. Now, this one I believe to be the best in slot precision frame fusion rifle, the crafted Epicurean with enhanced surplus and enhanced rangefinder. This is a beast of a roll. And we got Particle Repeater for some extra stability. I believe I even have a Stability Masterwork. And then, of course, I have Extended Barrel to give us a little bit of bump in range, and then also recoil direction. And on top of that, with a counterbalance stock, it has really, really solid recoil direction. Now, just for the heck of it, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison with the main ingredient so you can see what I meant from earlier. So the Epicurean has 7 more range than the main ingredient. But on top of that, you have Rangefinder, which even furthers that damage fall off and that range buff. And also the increased zoom makes it easier to land your shots from a further distance. So the range is substantially better on the Epicurean. Now, as for stability, the main ingredient does have under pressure and tap the trigger. Those are both stacking stability buffs. Under pressure can grant up to 30 stability. Tap the trigger got nerfed on fusion rifles, but still grants 10 stability. So pretty much at all times, the main ingredient is going to have 100 stability. Now the Epicurean with enhanced surplus, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this is the amount it gives. For 1 fully charged ability is 10 stability, and then for 2 is 20, and then for 3 is 30. So up to 99 stability on this thing, which is very comparable and similar to the main ingredient. Just a little tiny bit worse, but still very, very good, but with a lot more range. And also, because we can choose the parts, and I have that extended barrel on it, with the counterbalance stock. The Epicurean has 100 recoil direction, which I said earlier, recoil direction is the most important thing you could have on your fusion rifles. Now, main ingredient by default has, I think, like around 73 recoil direction, with a counterbalance stock boosting that up to 88 recoil direction, which is still solid, but it's not 100. So the Epicurean is still a lot more consistent with a lot more range. So it is indeed better. So with the Epicurean, I go straight to 20 meters right away, and guess what? I pick up a kill on my very first shot at 20 meters. I tested it further at 20 meters, and it was actually whiffing a lot, and it was actually starting to see some damage fall off at about 20.5 meters. So I started testing at 19 meters, it was hitting full damage, and it was picking up really consistent kills. It was killing way more often than not. Felt amazing, and with that enhanced zoom from the rangefinder, I was able to track my targets better and just see them a lot better. Where I got these 172 Crucible kills was on the trials weekend last week when I first crafted this Epicurean. Just went into trials over the weekend and slayed out with this thing. Felt amazing. I absolutely mapped some people. I got this awesome collat. If I find the clip, I'll put it on screen right now. I got this really cool collat with it. And yeah, at 19 meters, this thing was picking up easy kills. However, it did whiff every once in a while. So I would say that the consistent zone for Epicurean is going to be 18 meters. And now, because y'all are going to ask for it, here's some testing with Xur's main ingredient, also from 19 meters, where the Epicurean was shining. And as you can see, the damage fall off is a lot lesser because the Epicurean has a heck of a lot more range. And maybe you notice this, maybe you don't, but the spread on the main ingredient, because of the recoil direction, is a lot more sporadic. It's going to be a lot more RNG heavy to land all the shots in that burst. So the Epicurean, to me, clearly feels way better. Now, I'm almost certain that there's going to be people who want to type in the comments that I should have used red dot micro because it increases that zoom up to 17, pretty much matching the Epicurean. But that's not going to change the fact that the most important stat, recoil direction, is not at 100, and on the Epicurean, it is. So I still got to give it to the Epicurean. Now on to the next archetype, the 960 charge time high impact frames, and I wanted to do the same thing that I did with the 660s, and I wanted to show a max stability roll and then a max range roll. So we started it off with the Wizened Rebuke, and the reason I'm not showing you an in-game image and I'm showing you d2gunsmith.com is because this thing was so bad that I dismantled it. That's right. So this was the roll that I basically had, was stability with fluted barrel with particle repeater for extra stability, under pressure for extra 30 stability, and then iron grip for an extra 20 stability. So this thing was basically 100 stability, but only 51 range, seeing damage fall off at around 20 meters as well. So at that point, it's pretty much comparable range to the Epicurean while having 200 extra charge time. I'll just show the clips on screen now so you can see, and this thing's consistent zone was around 19 meters as well, just like the Epicurean, but with the added 200 charge time, absolutely terrible, not worth it. It doesn't have 100 recoil direction, more sporadic, and also doesn't have the extra zoom for rangefinder. There's no reason to have this when the Epicurean is what it is, so this thing was an instant dismantle. Now onto our range roll 960 high impact frame. We got the Iota Draconis here, and for our roll we have Arrowhead Break, which greatly increases that recoil direction up to 100, so we have no need for a counterbalance stock. So instead I throw in Targeting Adjuster just for the heck of it. We have Projection Fuse for extra range, and unfortunately for the Masterwork we have Charge Time, which takes away from the impact, so that's kind of a bummer. I wish that wasn't there. And for our perks, we have High Impact Reserves, which, like we talked about earlier, is instantly procced at the start of a Crucible game because you only start with 2 rounds. So that's extra damage, which can be basically translated into extra range. And then we have Under Pressure, which is a nice added touch for the 30 extra stability. So it basically has 54 stability, making it a lot more consistent while also being pretty decent range. And now with this thing, I could definitely feel the lack of stability. I try to start off at 22 meters, doesn't really work out because the spray is kind of sporadic. It kind of just goes all over the place. Same thing at 21 meters. I don't remember if I got a kill at 21 meters. I think I did. But where it was actually really, really consistent was 20 meters. 20 meters, I was able to get kills way more often than not. I felt I could control my stability just by tilting that controller stick down as it was firing. Since the high impacts only have 5 bolts in the burst, that's not really a lot to ask for. So it's pretty consistent. If you can get a good balance of stability and range on a high impact like this, that under pressure perk really helps. 20 meters is what I would say the consistent range is for the Iota Draconis. And now I did say earlier that we are also going to be testing the Telesto and the Devil's Ruin in this video, but those are kind of just memes, just extra throw-ins. I'll show that in a second. But let's talk about these 4 actual main archetypes of fusion rifles and which one you should be choosing. So with the 500 charge times being consistent around 12 meters, the 660s being consistent around 15 meters, the 760s around 18 meters, and the 960s around 20 meters, which one personally seems the best to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. For me personally, the jump of the 760s to the 960s, doing an extra 200 charge time for only 2 extra meters, for me isn't worth it. So I would immediately cut out the high impacts. And now when I shoot a fusion rifle, I like it to get the kill. If it whiffs, you're in big trouble. So that immediately cuts out the rapid fire frames for me. They got nerfed so hard that for me personally, I don't think they're worth it. And now I'm down to 660 charge time versus 760 charge time, 15 meters versus 18 meters. Now, when we talked about the jump from 760s to 960s, gaining you only 2 meters of consistency for 200 charge time is not worth it. But this is a 3-meter difference for half the charge time price, only 100 of a difference. So for me personally, I feel like the precision frame 760s, specifically the crafted Godroll Epicurean, which you can still farm for now, is gonna be the best in my opinion. You can absolutely map people while still having a pretty respectable charge time. So that is my decision, but let me know what you think in the comments. And now on to the memes, starting off with Telesto. For those who don't know how Telesto works, its little mine detonations have infinite range. So Telesto has infinite range. You can kill somebody from all the way across the map with this thing so long as you hit your shots. But you can kill from way further consistently if they are standing against a wall, because you don't need to be perfectly accurate, because those bolts will hit the wall behind them and they'll blow up. That is why you see Telesto getting some nutty clips sometimes. But you just got to think about what amount of range that you can kill at when the opponent is standing out in the open, not against the wall. So it all depends on how stable the Telesto is. At 25 meters, I was actually getting a lot of consistent kills with it, although it did whiff sometimes. So I would say the consistent range for Telesto is 24 meters. So with this crazy insane range compared to the other stuff we tested today, how is Telesto not considered the best fusion in the game? Well, those mine shots that detonate on it have a delay. The opponent has like a full second to shoot back at you, and most Crucible weapons have like a second TTK anyways. So back when I wasn't good at Crucible and I was maining Telesto, I would get a lot of kills with it, but the opponent would also kill me, and we would kind of die and explode at the same time. And what you want to do in Crucible is play your life. You don't want to be trading every single time. You just want to play your life. And with Telesto, you can't really do that because they can shoot back at you. So that is why this thing isn't really the best. But if you don't have any other better options, I guess use it. And finally, on to the last weapon of the video. This is the Devil's Ruin, the infinite ammo fusion rifle. So for fun, I wanted to see at what amount of meters we can get a full-on body shot kill at. Starting off at 25 meters, just like where Telesto was consistent, immediately we get a super easy kill. So I back it up meter by meter as time goes on, and little did I know it was still picking up easy kills all the way up to 30 meters, 31 meters, and then even at 32 meters, we managed to get a kill. But at 32 meters is where it starts to be very inconsistent, and you need to get some crits in there and land all your shots in order to pick up that kill. Now, I personally haven't used this thing much in Crucible, but now I will, because it's kind of blowing my mind, and you should try it too. So I would say that the range that I would call this consistent, where you could land your shots and pick up easy kills and track your targets, I would give it a consistency rating of about 26 meters. It has really good range, but just like Telesto, it kind of does have a downside, because you can get flinched off your burst, and if you happen to whiff your shot and you don't pick up the kill, it is very punishing. It's going to be very slow to have to reload and shoot again. So you better be pairing this thing with another primary weapon. If you're running Devil's Ruin, I would run double primary, pair it with like a scout rifle or a pulse rifle for the longer ranges, something with good handling so you can swap to that and pick up the kills if you happen to whiff that kill with the Devil's Ruin. So that's pretty much going to do it for the video. If you have any conflicting opinions on any of the information given in this video, feel free to share in the comments down below and we can have a conversation about it. And if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment. Those two actions really help the algorithm and the video's performance. And if you are new and you enjoy the content, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.